Here lies the tale of Russia's economy under siege. Since 2022, war with Ukraine has pushed it to the brink. Sanctions bite, inflation soars, and public unrest simmers. From energy woes to currency collapse, the struggles are real and relentless. But what lies ahead? Let's unravel this. Chapter 1. The birth of economic strain. Russia's involvement in the Ukraine war has a deep and intricate history, starting with the annexation of Crimea in 2014. This bold move by Russia drew international condemnation and led to the first wave of economic sanctions. The immediate aftermath saw the ruble plummet in value, causing inflation to surge and eroding the purchasing power of ordinary Russians. Multinational companies, wary of the political and economic instability, began withdrawing from the Russian market. This exodus further strained the economy, leaving a significant gap in consumer goods and technological expertise. By 2015, the impact was clear. Russia's GDP had contracted by 2.8%. The nation, which had been enjoying relative economic stability, was now grappling with a downturn that affected every layer of society. The sanctions targeted key sectors like finance, energy, and defense, making it increasingly difficult for Russia to operate on the global stage. As the years passed, these economic challenges became more entrenched, setting the stage for the even more severe pressures that would arise with the escalation of the Ukraine conflict in 2022. Chapter 2. Sanctions and their impact. The international response to Russia's actions in Ukraine has been swift and severe. Sanctions have been a primary tool used by the West to cripple Russia's economic and industrial capabilities. Key sectors such as energy, finance, and defense have been targeted, cutting off vital lifelines that Russia relied upon. Major Russian banks were excluded from the SWIFT banking system, effectively isolating them from the global financial network. This move not only disrupted international transactions, but also caused a ripple effect throughout the Russian economy. Additionally, the plummeting oil prices during 2014 to 2015 compounded these sanctions, leading to a perfect storm of economic turmoil. The combination of sanctions and low oil prices triggered significant capital flight, with billions of dollars leaving the country as investors sought safer havens. Foreign investment, once a critical source of growth, dried up almost overnight. The loss of these funds led to job losses, reduced consumer spending, and a slowing economy. As Russia struggled to adapt, the government implemented various countermeasures, but the long-term damage was already done. The economic isolation forced Russia to seek new partners and markets, often with limited success, highlighting the profound and lasting impact of these sanctions. Chapter 3. The energy sector, a double-edged sword. Russia's economy has long been heavily dependent on its energy exports, particularly oil and natural gas. The Ukraine war has put this dependence into sharp focus, revealing both the strengths and vulnerabilities of Russia's energy sector. As Europe moved to reduce its reliance on Russian energy, Russia found itself scrambling to find new markets for its oil and gas. Projects like Nord Stream 2, which were designed to solidify Russia's position as a key energy supplier to Europe, were halted. This not only impacted future revenue, but also undermined long-term strategic goals. In response, Russia has threatened to cut off gas supplies to Europe, a move that could destabilize both Russian and European economies. However, these threats have had limited success as Europe has accelerated its search for alternative energy sources. Finding new buyers for its energy exports has proven challenging for Russia. Countries like China and India have shown interest, but the logistics and infrastructure needed to support these new markets are still in development. This shift has not been enough to compensate for the loss of European customers, leaving Russia's energy sector in a precarious position. The heavy reliance on energy exports now appears to be a double-edged sword, providing revenue but also exposing Russia to significant risks. Chapter 4. Currency crisis and inflation. The war in Ukraine and the subsequent sanctions have led to a severe currency crisis in Russia. The value of the ruble has fluctuated wildly, causing widespread economic uncertainty. This instability has had a direct impact on inflation, which has soared as the cost of imported goods has risen dramatically. The devaluation of the ruble has made everyday items, from groceries to medicine, significantly more expensive. For many Russians, this has meant a substantial decrease in their standard of living. The government's attempts to stabilize the currency through various measures, including currency controls have had limited success. Despite these efforts, the ruble remains vulnerable to further declines, particularly as the economic situation continues to deteriorate. Inflation has also been exacerbated by supply chain disruptions caused by the sanctions. Many goods that Russia previously imported are now either unavailable or significantly more expensive. This has led to shortages of essential items, further driving up prices. The combination of currency devaluation and inflation has created a vicious cycle, making it increasingly difficult for ordinary Russians to make ends meet. Chapter 5. Economic Isolation. A New Iron Curtain. Russia's increasing isolation from the global economy has profound implications for its long-term economic health. Major tech companies, fearing sanctions and political backlash, have ceased operations in Russia. This has limited access to crucial technology and innovation, hindering the country's ability to keep pace with global advancements. The withdrawal of foreign direct investment has led to job losses and slowed economic growth. Without the influx of foreign capital, many projects have stalled and businesses have struggled to expand or even maintain their operations. Russia's own technological and industrial capabilities have suffered due to a lack of imported components and expertise. The isolation has forced Russia to turn towards less developed markets, which offer limited economic opportunities and are often less stable. This new economic reality has created a scenario reminiscent of the Cold War era, with Russia increasingly cut off from the global economy. The long-term effects of this isolation are likely to be severe, stifling innovation and reducing the country's competitiveness on the world stage. The economic Iron Curtain that has descended over Russia shows no signs of lifting, trapping the country in a cycle of stagnation and decline. Chapter 6. Public Sentiment and Social Unrest. Economic hardship has led to growing public dissatisfaction and social unrest within Russia. Protests against the war and the deteriorating economic conditions have erupted across the country, signaling widespread discontent. The government's response has been to crack down on dissent, leading to further instability and unrest. The economic inequality that has always existed in Russia has been exacerbated by the current crisis. The wealthy elite, often insulated from the worst impacts, continue to thrive while ordinary citizens struggle to make ends meet. This widening gap has fueled anger and resentment, making the social environment increasingly volatile. The combination of economic hardship and political repression has created a powder keg situation. With each passing day, the potential for widespread social unrest grows. The government's efforts to maintain control through force and intimidation may only serve to heighten tensions, leading to a more unstable and unpredictable future. The seeds of discontent have been sown, and the harvest promises to be anything but peaceful. Chapter 7. Agricultural Sector. Food security at risk. Sanctions and the ongoing conflict have also taken a toll on Russia's agricultural sector, threatening food security. Import restrictions have led to shortages of critical agricultural inputs like seeds, fertilizers, and machinery. These shortages have made it difficult for farmers to maintain production levels, impacting the overall food supply. Export bans and sanctions have disrupted Russia's ability to sell its agricultural products abroad. This has not only reduced income for farmers but also led to an oversupply in the domestic market, causing prices to plummet. However, domestic food prices for consumers have soared as the cost of imported food products has risen due to sanctions. The government has implemented measures to boost domestic production, but these efforts have had limited success. Without access to high-quality inputs and advanced agricultural technology, increasing production is a challenging task. The threat to food security is real and immediate, with the potential for shortages and rising prices creating further hardship for the Russian population. Chapter 8. Military spending vs. social spending. The war in Ukraine has forced Russia to prioritize military spending over social programs, exacerbating economic and social issues. Military expenditures have skyrocketed, consuming a significant portion of the national budget. This focus on military spending has come at the expense of essential social services, including healthcare and education. Budget cuts to social programs have led to a decline in the quality and availability of public services. Hospitals and schools are struggling to maintain operations with reduced funding, impacting the health and education of the population. The neglect of critical infrastructure and public services has long-term consequences. reducing economic productivity and the overall quality of life. The prioritization of military spending has also strained the economy. Resources that could have been used to stimulate economic growth and development are being diverted to the war effort. This focus on the military over social welfare creates a society that is less educated, less healthy, and ultimately less productive. The long-term economic impact of these priorities includes a workforce that is ill-prepared to compete in a global economy, further hindering Russia's prospects for recovery and growth. Chapter 9. International alliances and economic dependencies. Russia's economic strategy has increasingly relied on fostering alliances with non-Western countries, but this approach has its limitations. Partnerships with China and India have been pursued to counterbalance Western sanctions. While these alliances offer some economic relief, they are often contingent on Russia making significant concessions. The reliance on these alliances has made Russia vulnerable to economic pressures from its new partners. China and India, while large markets, have their own economic interests and priorities, which may not always align with Russia's. This dependency introduces new risks and uncertainties, as these alliances can be fickle and subject to change. Moreover, the economic opportunities offered by these markets are limited compared to the losses incurred from Western sanctions. The shift towards less stable markets adds another layer of complexity to Russia's economic strategy. The long-term viability of these alliances remains uncertain, and the economic dependencies they create could further destabilize Russia's already fragile economy. Chapter 10. Future prospects. A crumbling giant. The long-term outlook for Russia's economy under the pressure of war and sanctions remains bleak, with several key challenges ahead. Sustained economic isolation is likely to lead to technological and industrial stagnation. The continued devaluation of the ruble and high inflation rates will erode consumer confidence and purchasing power, making it difficult for the economy to recover. Political instability and social unrest may further destabilize the economic environment. The government's heavy-handed approach to dissent and its focus on military spending over social welfare create a volatile and unpredictable future. Without significant structural reforms and a resolution to the conflict in Ukraine, Russia's economy faces a prolonged period of decline. The resilience of Russia's economy will depend on its ability to navigate these complex and interlinked challenges. The path forward is fraught with uncertainty, and the potential for a crumbling giant looms large. The story of Russia's economic struggle is a cautionary tale of the profound and far-reaching impacts of war and isolation, a narrative that continues to unfold with each passing day. And that's it from this video. See you in the next one.